3, the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister of Finance, does he stand by his statement, quote, substantial gains could be made by aligning the top personal tax rate and the trustee tax rate?
The Honourable Bill English.
Yes, Mr Speaker, we could make substantial gains in the integrity of the tax system. Under the previous government, the number of people paying tax on $1 million did not change in 10 years, even though the economy grew significantly. And an Inland Revenue survey of their 100 wealthiest taxpayers showed that under the previous government, half of them did not pay the top tax rate.
Speaker.
The Honourable
Mr Speaker, will the Minister concede?
I haven't called the member. Before I do, though, I think the noise is simply getting unacceptable. Unacceptable. I'd ask members to be mindful of that. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, to the Minister, will he concede that it is only those on the highest incomes that would make, quote, substantial gains as a result of reducing the top tax rate to the trustee tax rate? And when is his government going to show some decisive plans about closing down the loopholes he's mentioned around LAQCs and pies, as well as the trust rate?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the government is working on exactly those issues. It's a bit ironical being questioned by a minister of the former government who put all of those inconsistencies in place.
Well done.
Amy Adams.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Supplementary question to the Minister. What considerations will the government make in deciding the final mix of any tax system changes?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, a most important consideration is the impact of a change in the tax mix on the prospects for economic growth. As I pointed out earlier today, a stronger growing economy delivers more new jobs and higher incomes for everybody. So we will be looking to tilt the playing field so that people have stronger incentives to get ahead, to work, to save and to invest, and less incentive to consume too much and borrow too much.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Speaker, has the Minister received any advice about this trickle-down theory that the highest income earners will receive substantial gains when low and middle income hard-working New Zealanders will only be left at very best no worse off?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the government is putting together a package, and the key to that package is likely to be a tax switch, as we've explained, between GST and income tax, and additional taxation of property. And as I pointed out to the member, the ownership of investment housing and commercial property in New Zealand is largely higher income. So whether any individual is better off or worse off will depend to some extent on their personal circumstances.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, does he agree that this tax switch would instead be better done as a change to tax thresholds, which would deliver a more equal distribution of tax cut? And can he assure the public that this will be a part of his tax switch?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, if the member is talking about equity, he can go to the website that's been open for 6 months, and he only discovered it after Christmas, that show how the tax working group calculated the impacts of various scenarios on equity. And he can look at the Gini coefficients and the ratios between median and lower quartile incomes and decide for himself. And then he can get out on his bus trip and put his proposition forward. And I'd like to hear what it is.
Mr Speaker. Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, it was a pretty simple question about whether the changes to tax thresholds would be part of the so-called tax switch. Instead of addressing that question, sir, we got a lot of invective about when people read websites.
Order. I listened very carefully to the member's question, and if he had asked just that, it might have been possible to get an answer on whether or not changes to the thresholds will be part of the tax package. But the member made a whole lot of further statement about equity, and the Minister of Finance picked up on those statements and responded to that. Question number 4, Dr. Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr.